I'm not the leader. I don't want to be the leader. I'm not here to take over your business. I'm here to give you the information you need to be stronger at your business. You're the hero. I'm the guide. I'm the tavern. I'm the barkeep. I'm the guy who just has the information.
How can you help us, though, continue to help you? First, please subscribe to the channel. Like us. If you listen to the audio version, leave us a 5-star review wherever you can. If you see our posts, please share those posts, share the content, and link back to our law firm website, which helps us to continue our SEO marketing and grow our firm and help small business owners. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another show. I'm Mitch Beinhaker, your host. Welcome to the Accidental Entrepreneur. If you are listening to us on your favorite directory, please leave us a 5-star review so we can keep connecting with cool people like Paul, you're going to meet in a minute, and keep engaging on the podcast. We're also doing a big push on the video side of it. So go to the YouTube channel, subscribe, like the channel, share it on social media, and we appreciate all that stuff. As I always say, the show is for entertainment purposes only. So anything that Paul and I discuss, if it sounds like advice, that's fine, but do not make any decisions without talking to local licensed professionals. So, Paul, thanks for coming on the show. I didn't even ask you, what part of the country are you in?
I'm in Nebraska.
So it's like, let's say it's 10:30 here. So it's like 8:30 there?
9:30.
Yep. It's only an hour behind. Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's the Cornhuskers, right? Nebraska. Yep. Got it. Okay. Why don't we, because we're going to talk about gamifying your business, which is really cool. Everybody's going to learn about that stuff. But why don't we go back and talk about your background in business? And I know you did a lot of corporate stuff and you can share that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay.
So basically, my beginning was I started in theater. That's actually my origin story. I'm a theater kid, became a theater adult, and then got my graduate degree. And then a week after I got my graduate degree, decided to scrap all of that and go in a completely different direction. That's
makes sense, right?
Well, I got some really good advice from somebody who was at the top of the game of what I had got my degree in, and his advice was don't do it. And I took it to heart. I'm glossing over some of the intricacies here, but the reality is that it's a hard life to try and actually have some stability with. And so I still have a fondness for theater and for the arts. And so I decided to not pursue scenic design and property design as a career. Instead, I wanted to be an artist.
Okay. That's even better.
I know, it's like step up, right?
It's like you want to struggle more than you would be.
That's exactly. I thought this albatross is not heavy enough. Let me grab a second. So, but when I was working with him, I was actually designing a show at the time in which I don't know if you know much about theater design, but you have to make something called a scale model, which is a smaller representation of the larger thing. Right. And I was hand cutting hundreds of chairs, and I thought there has got to be a better way to do this.
But like little chairs?
Tiny chairs, about quarter-inch scale. So they're about less than an inch tall. And then 100 of them out of cardstock. And it was meticulously and maddening.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And so then I was strolling through a grocery store at one point. I saw some greeting cards. I saw some ones with nice intricate detail, lace patterning on it. And I looked at it closer and I noticed the edges were brown. And I thought, somebody's cut this out they burned it away. They lasered it out or something. So I called Hallmark, who had the card, and I said, who's your laser person? And it took a while to find out the information, but they've told me, and this is before everybody had one in their basement like I do.
Right.
And so they told me, and I went and saw them. They're based in New Jersey, and I went there, and it was a warehouse. The machine was the size of a warehouse. It was huge. And I'm like, I have this idea. I want to make scale model furniture for architects, doll houses, and designers. And it needs to be accurate and all this. And so I created my first product, which is called Pop Out Furniture. And that was the first invention I ever had.
So it was like flat, and you could pop it out and put it together.
Yep.
They do that in like balsa wood too, right? Don't they?
Yep.
That kind of stuff.
Yep. And so
now you can 3D print the chairs probably, right?
And that's and that's what ended my business. So that was my very first business, and I did that for about 3 years. And then I was at one of the trade shows, and sitting next to me was a laser company, and then 3D company down the road. And I'm like, writing's on the wall here, kid. And so switched gears, and I was a college professor for a hot minute. Lasted 3 years before the bureaucracy.
And teaching what? Theater?
I was teaching design.
Design.
Theater design.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
And it was actually where I got my undergrad degree. I didn't even apply for the job. They're just like, do you want it? I'm like, sure.
Yeah. It's like, real competitive.
Yeah. Real competitive. And then, they interviewed me, I think 2.5 years into it. They're like, we should interview for this job. I'm like, okay, I have it, but sure.
That's funny.
Yeah. And so I did that for about 3 years. I hated the bureaucracy of it. So then, but my last year I was there, a student of mine had asked me for a Nintendo Me figure from the Nintendo Wii. I don't know if you remember that console from back in the day, but in 2006, 2007, everybody was playing Wii Bowling.
Yeah,
and so
I remember that.
they had these little avatars. And so he's like, can you make me some for my girlfriend and I for Valentine's Day? I'm like, yeah, sure. Not a problem. So I made it
Like
for
little
him.
figurines?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Like little 3D figurine.
And what would you do with them?
He just put it on a shelf. It's a nice little collectible.
Right.
Just a little tchotchke. That's what it was.
All right.
And this is before social media, 2006, 2007. And what I didn't know is he posted images of it on a blog called Super Punch.
Okay.
And it went viral. And I started getting all of these requests via email for making more of them. And I started taking them all.
People wanted a 3D image of their avatar to put on their shelves. The avatar, the one who you look at in the game when you would bowl or whatever.
Yeah, just a little version of you.
Well, things that people want. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I made about 1,000 of those.
There's a business there, right?
By hand. Yeah. And that was crazy.
When you say by hand, you 3D printed them?
No, I was making these by hand. I was sculpting them with clay.
Carving them like you're like a guy living in the woods.
Yeah, a little bit. A little banjo going in the background. Yeah, that was it.
Exactly. That's what I imagine it.
Yeah. So no, I was sculpting them all by hand. And then eventually people started asking for other things. And I have a philosophy, which is bend, don't break. So when opportunity comes and they want you to go a little different direction, go with it. Why not? What's the worst that can happen? Right. And that's been the philosophy of my business. So for 20 years, I ran a business called Paul Pape Designs. I still do it. And basically I became Santa for nerds. Somebody gave me that moniker years down the line, and it fits great on a business card. I have a TEDx talk, which is called Santa for Nerds, that you can go watch, which describes what it is that I do about making magic for people that they want. And that led me to working with companies like Disney, Universal, Nickelodeon, to the Tonight Show. Just
all hand carving stuff, clay.
So sometimes hand carving, sometimes woodworking, metalwork, 3D printing, laser, you name it now. I've probably got the machine that does it. So everything and anything. I've got a really weird, wide skill set.
So like for a company like Disney, they obviously have a lot of characters. They would hire you to do some sort of creations for a line of one of their characters?
Yeah, when they, I did things like this for them, which is a custom carbonite. Oh. So this is like Han Solo's frozen in carbonite.
Yeah, right.
But this is like you. Frozen in carbonite. I call them custom carbonates.
You can get a customized one for your dad, and you can put them in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
And I've done almost 1,000 of those as well. But that's what Disney hires me to do. Or I made like a custom action figure for their head of animation, or I do things like that. So it's a lot of little weird things.
But it was all you? Like you didn't have people producing these things? You're doing them by hand. So it's all a solo kind of business.
Solopreneur. Yep.
Okay.
For years
Good
and
business,
years.
though, I guess, right? If you can do it, if you have talent. So
yeah. Mid 6 figures. So I mean, I'm doing all right.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then, but for about the last 7 years or 6 years over the last 7 years, I was on a platform called Twitch. And it is, so it's a gaming platform, but what a lot of people don't know is about 20% of the people who are on there are actually creatives, and they do their work online, and they just basically use it to meet people, meet clients, that kind of stuff. And so I was doing that 5 days a week for about 6 hours a day. And I would just do my work, and then I'd talk to people. And what happened is I ended up answering a lot of questions from other creatives who were trying to break into the business or trying to actually earn a living, trying to break the starving artist model, whatever, because they could see that I was successful doing it. And so
it was like kind of like a platform for work and a chat room type of a thing, or
I was live on camera, much like I am here.
Like video, okay.
And then they would be there in the chat, and so they would ask a question, and I just answer it live. So
got it. So you would see the chat. It wasn't like they were on camera, only you were.
No, just me. Yep. Okay. So showing the work that I was doing, which it's great practice for being.
You can go live on Facebook, all that kind of stuff. Same type of thing.
Yeah, exactly that. So it basically goes back to my theater roots. So it's live theater. Like YouTube is what I would call pre-programmed television. Mm-hmm. Twitch is live theater.
Right. Well, you go live on YouTube too now.
Well, you can now, but
then you
used
could
to not be able to. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And so did that, but everybody started asking me the same questions over and over again. And then I thought, why don't I just start coaching people on this or consulting or whatever?
Well, what kind of questions, Paul, were they asking you? Like what kind of?
They would ask questions like, how do I figure out what to charge? How do I find my audience? How do I navigate the tax system of somebody being an independent contractor?
Yeah, all good business questions, right?
Absolutely. And what I figured out is that free advice nobody takes.
They listen to you, but they don't follow through on it.
Exactly that. Right. And so I started charging for it, and then the people started listening. Yeah. Because I believe that you've got to have your customers have a little bit of pain when they're talking to when they
feel like, well, I paid for this. If I don't act on it, I'm an idiot. So you don't have to act if you didn't pay for it, but just stupid. But yeah, right. So basically, they forced you to charge them instead of getting it for free. It's just dumb. Okay. But it's typical, right?
Yeah, it is. And so I'd actually been hired by this company. They wanted me to help them reassess their business. They had a really decent model. They were grossing about $1.3 million, which is pretty good, but they were only netting about $50,000.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you. Most people go, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, no, the answer should be,
that's like out of business, basically. One mistake and you're in the red.
And that's exactly what was happening. They were floating by on credit cards, and that was it.
What was the bit? What did they do?
They were making sculptures of dragons and dragon accessories, and they were selling them everywhere, doing pretty well.
Just like running through their expenses like out of control.
Well, yeah, they had bad business advice, and so they brought me in. And what I found out is that they didn't run the business side of things; they ran the art side of things, and they hired a guy to do the business side, and he was running them underground, and he was making off like a bandit. So,
right, he's stealing money. Basically, it wasn't that their expenses were high; is that this guy's raping the company.
That's exactly what happened. And so they hired me to find this out and then fire the guy, which is what I did.
Okay.
But he was a partner, so I had to like go through. It was a whole rigmarole.
But you're stealing from the company. How hard could that be?
Yeah. Oh, he fought it. Sure. Let me tell you.
I give up your gravy train, right?
Exactly that. And but I was sitting there talking to them. It was the three artists that were left, and they wanted to take over the business. So I had asked them. I said, "Well, what is everybody's role in this business?" And they go, "Oh, we do everything." I said, "Well, that's the best way to ruin your business."
Yeah.
And I said, "So how about tomorrow I come back?" They're big gamer nerds like I am. And I said, "How about I come back tomorrow? We're going to play Dungeons and Dragons Business Edition, where instead of being like a warrior or a wizard, you're going to be your role in the business. And I'm going to create some scenarios, but only the person with the expertise is able to lead that challenge." And they're like, "Okay, cool." So we came back the next day and we played it for like 4 hours.
And this just like a concept in your head at the time, right?
Yeah,
like
it just came to me.
Along. Right.
Yeah. And that's the great thing.
You know, Paul, it's a lot to be said, right? Because you're dealing with creatives, you're a creative yourself, and you knew that a creative process would work for them.
Right. Well, you got to speak their language. And that's really what I discovered in this, because I was talking about business principles that went way over their head. Right. But when I gamified it, when I turned it into a language they understood, which was the game aspect of it, things started clicking. And you could see light bulbs.
They were comfortable with it. It was their world. Sure.
And then they said, "This is business?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is what it is."
Yeah.
They're like, "Oh." So now they're projected to, they're still doing the same gross, but now they're netting about $800,000.
Yeah. This guy was really stealing from the company, right?
Oh yeah, he really was. And and they had like bad idea. He's like a new product every 6 weeks. So we're going to spend an extra $50,000 to $60,000 every 6 weeks for a new product. I'm like, "How many of you?" And he'd order 2,000 to 3,000 of units. And I'm like, "Well, how many units were you selling?" They're like, 200. So I'm like, "So where's the rest of the stuff?" They're like, "Oh, we're paying $2,000 a month for a warehouse to have them stored every month." And I'm like, "Why aren't you moving them?"
So like a dead inventory that they're paying to keep.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So we changed all of that. We changed, and that's what they hired me for as a consultant. Of course. And but that seed, that idea of talking to people through a language of gaming, like I was like, that's an idea. That's something I can run with. Huge. And what I found out was that everybody plays games. Whether it's Monopoly or Sorry, or you're doing things like online.
Why do you think cash flow is popular with Robert Kiyosaki? He wasn't stupid.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And so that's where this whole thing started from. So gamifying your business is all based around speaking a language, demystifying business for people who don't think like business people.
Now, are the Dragon people still in business?
Absolutely. And they're thriving. Yeah, they're doing really
nice. Do you have other businesses on the side that you're doing, or really just doing the gamifying thing now?
I still do the Paul Pape design stuff. I mean, I was literally working for the Tonight Show yesterday, but
nice.
I do that, and I do the gamify business thing. Like,
since this will come out for probably three months or so, can you tell me what you're doing for the Tonight Show?
Yeah, because it airs Sunday. So basically, there's the Eagles and the Bears are playing football team. Yeah. Okay, well, they're going to do the worm. I don't know if you remember the breakdance move, the worm.
I do.
Okay, they're going to do the worm challenge, and they're going to see who can get through the studio the fastest. So I had to create the trophy for them, and so it was actual full size, almost 3 foot tall trophy with a guy doing the worm, all in gold plate and all that stuff. But they told me that I shipped it yesterday, which was Thursday. They called me Wednesday at 4 p.m. and said, "We need it to ship tomorrow. Can you do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it."
I think you had told me that we spoke off camera that you get these things and they're like, "Listen, this is the Tonight Show. We need it in 24 hours." You're like,
"That's
all right,
exactly what it is." Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's cool, because they add a zero to the check, and then you're like, yeah, no, I'll make
Yeah,
anything
well,
happen for that.
it's funny because you watch this stuff on TV, all kinds of shows, right? And you're
Hmm.
thinking, well, their staff must have created that, right? These are the writers, and they probably are gluing this stuff together and they're running around. But it's not the case. I mean, they spend real money and hire professionals to do this stuff.
They do.
And
I mean, they do a lot of stuff in house. I mean, I will not shirk that. They have a great team in house, but there are things that are not applicable, or they just can't do.
just not their skill set. Yeah.
No. And so I've seen them build sets like crazy, just like on the fly, sitting in the audience watching that. But I did one for Deadpool and Wolverine. They were
Ooh,
doing a
nice.
giant claw machine, a human claw machine, where they tether people into a harness and drop them in. So Hugh Jackman was on a claw, a harness,
This is
dropping into this
on the set
Yeah.
while
And
they're
so
filming. Got it.
yeah, so this giant thing filled with stuffed animals. Well, they needed a Wolverine and a Deadpool, but you can't use somebody else's IP. That's just it's out. So the look of it had to be completely original. It could look like it, but it couldn't be anybody's design. So they hired me to come up with a completely new pattern to create these, and I had to make 11 of them and then ship them out there. And they didn't trust FedEx, so they actually shipped me out there with them. So I flew out there and hand delivered them, and got to sit and watch all that. But it's so that's what they hired me. There's like, okay, you got 3 days to design and fabricate and deliver these types of things, and that's typical of the job.
Is that though very scalable business or not really? Because it's really your skills. People call you. They're like, I mean, you don't have like a team of designers to create these things. Do you have
Not
freelance
true.
guys if you need to tap in?
I do. I call them pocket
Okay.
people, and these are the people that I keep in my back pocket.
Yeah.
Because I'm a solopreneur, and for the most part, I do most of it. But I've got a guy who, like, I can code, but I don't like doing it, and it takes me forever. So I got a guy I call, and I'm like, you want a couple $1,000 for an hour's worth of work? He's like,
Exactly.
yes, I do.
He'll crank
And
it
so
out.
I got those people, and I've got fabrication houses that I can lean on if I need to. But for the most part, I'm pretty efficient, so I can do it myself. But it is a scalable business, but it's scalable on a one-on-one process. And so instead of me like having 50 employees, what I do is I train 50 other people to do this job.
Right, because you don't know what the job's going to look like and who you're going to need. So that makes sense. You wouldn't have full-time employees. But is it something that you could sell the design company to someone else and they could pick up these opportunities, or they would, or not?
Yeah, because there are definitely design houses around here that, or in the country, that do this type of thing. But the reason that I get the work that I get is because I am faster and I'm cheaper because I am faster than a team of hiring 7. I've had one job where we couldn't hire this company because it was 14 employees. It said it'd take them 2.5 weeks to do it. You're one guy and you can do it in a day.
Right. And you can't sell that.
It's hard. So you've got to be able to train the person to be able to have the skill set. But I know enough. I've been in this business long enough. I know the people and their skill sets. So I could, if they wanted to find other people in it. I work with a place right now called Heartland Scenic Studio, and they have a very similar operation, but they're doing like museum installs and that kind of stuff. That kind of business is scalable. So teaching this aspect of it, like how to problem solve to be able to design and fabricate this stuff, that's scalable, and I can teach any company how to do that. Or I could sell this business and be like, this is all the tools, the equipment, and the resources that I have, the connections, and then they could just take it. But, as far as being me, no.
Right. But you could sell it to maybe one of your guys who,
right. One of my pocket people. Absolutely.
Assist them and teach them. Okay. But then there's the Gamify business, which is scalable, and
absolutely,
it's basically a system,
yep.
Right? All right. So, all right, I want to walk through that process though, right? Because you created something, and then obviously the first day with the Dragon Company, it didn't look like it does on the shelf behind you. So
no, it does not.
Yeah. So what was that like? You were just making it up on the fly? Like what happened? I want to hear about that process. What happened?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm a game nerd. And so in Dungeons and Dragons, there's a dungeon master, a game master. And this is the guy who basically tells the story of the game. And so that's who I played. And so I'm used to doing like improv or whatever. I mean, it's theater. That's what.
Yeah, you had nothing written at this point. You didn't have a book to read from, right? No. Okay, so you're making it up as you go along.
Winging it. Yeah.
Okay.
But what I found out is that I knew what their pain points were, and that's what you need to find with any client.
Right, you already knew that at that point, right?
Right. So how do I reverse engineer that into a problem that they can approach in a language that they understand? And so that's really what I was doing in that moment. But when I finished that, I came back and I was like, the seed of it was there. The seed of gamified business was there. And so I was like, how can I turn this into something how can I like basically make this universal as opposed to being very specific to the Dragon Company? And that's the that's really where this came from. And so it's basically reflection. Like, what was it that they really needed to understand? They needed to understand who they were and what they were trying to deliver and what their core idea was, and how to stick with that and monetize that idea and move forward. How to demystify the terminology of business, how to make them understand the processes that go into running a successful business without it feeling overwhelming. I like to say that business people are linear thinkers and creatives are cloud thinkers. It's very different way of thinking. And so and let me tell you, as a creative myself, I'm like a squirrel, man. I get distracted all the time. And how do you keep
business is hard for people? Because
exactly
a lot of them. Yeah.
Right. And so how do you get them to understand that? And so what I did in the design of this book, I actually have, my son is ADHD. And so I actually used him as like kind of my guinea pig on designing this. So it's not all just fill in the blank. It jumps all over the place. You've got graphs, you've got bubble fill, you've got long form, short form, you've got things that you've got to go outside and do. It constantly keeps you actively engaged in the process. But I also know from gaming, like I do a lot of research on human brains and all that fun stuff. And I learned that dopamine is like 90% of the reason that we scroll on our phones or we play games is we want that dopamine kick. We want to feel happy.
Of course.
And so the book is actually designed, the process is designed to be able to give you milestones. And so you get that dopamine kick so that when you are accomplishing something in your own life, in your own business, you still get the happy reward with it. And it doesn't feel like a slog the entire time.
Right. So you feel good about it and you keep moving. So at the beginning, when you're working with these guys, did you like put butcher paper on the table and it was blank with markers and you started writing things down, or what did you do? I mean, did they?
It was pretty much that. We essentially, it was they had to design their character, what they looked like, who they were in it. It was essentially
like their own avatar. This is me in the business.
It was the projection of themselves.
And they still do that in the game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's actually one of the very first things to do is character creation.
Okay.
And the reason that is there's a psychology behind it, because as an entrepreneur, as I'm sure you're aware, we're flawless. We never make mistakes and we'll never admit that we do.
Right.
So the thing is you've got to get past that ego. And I found that if I say, hey, what are your weaknesses? The answer is always going to be, don't have any.
Right.
But if I say, let's create a character, it's you, but it's your character. What is that character's weaknesses?
They're more
and that
honest
step away, they are honest about it.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And so then, but the thing is weakness, the things that you're deficient in are not a bad thing. It's the things that you need to find somebody to help boost you up on. You need to find people who can help round you out, because no one is good at everything. We can all do everything. That's the whole point of being an entrepreneur.
We can. Right.
Right. But you're going to do some stuff shitty. It's going to be bad. It's just the way it goes.
Well, when you start out as an entrepreneur, you have to do it all yourself, even though you're not good at probably at least 50% of it, maybe more.
Absolutely.
But the ones that are successful do exactly what you said. They start to bring in the people to do the things that they're not as good at or shouldn't be doing. Right. I mean, right. You could be the guy who growing the business and at the 30,000 foot level at some point, if you're going to be successful, you shouldn't be sweeping the floors and, calling the maintenance man to fix something. That should be someone else. That's not,
exactly that. And in gaming, we call that looking for group. Now you might wonder why there are alcohol looking bottles sitting behind me, because that's me too. But the reason that it's there is because in games like role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, where you find your group is the tavern. The person who has the advice, the person who knows where the quests are, is the tavern keep.
Makes sense.
And that's the role that I play. I'm not the guru. I'm not the leader. I don't want to be the leader. I'm not here to take over your business. I'm here to give you the information you need to be stronger at your business. You're
like
the
hero.
Guide. I'm the guide. I'm the tavern. I'm the barkeep. I'm the guy who just has the information.
The therapist behind the thing. Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. And so and what this does, this idea of this, and I actually have an outfit that I wear for it, the whole 9 yards. I mean, because it really brings people into it. When I do trade shows, it's the same thing. What it does is it allows them to feel like they can take because even though I'm giving the advice that they need to hear, they're still in control. And especially with entrepreneurs who have that ego, they don't want to be told what to do. They want to figure it out on their own, or they want to be the one who's in charge. And so the whole point is business is an adventure. Don't be an NPC. Be the hero of your own adventure. I'm just here to give advice. And so that's why it's more consulting than it is coaching, because I'm here to just consult you, give you the answer that you need. You go out and adventure. Maybe you slayed the dragon. Maybe you wiped out your team. I don't know, but you come back. I'll give you some more advice. You go at it again. That's the whole point of this. I'm not here to take over your business. I don't want to take over your business. I
Right.
want to help you
You're
do
the
best at
consultant.
what you do.
Maybe you're getting your calendaring from one software and you're invoicing from another. Evenoo is a platform that we use as one of our sponsors to run our entire business. And there's other features like auto payments and integrations with QuickBooks. Visit evenoo.com, EVONUE.com to learn more. There's also a link in the show notes. And be sure to tell them that the Accidental Entrepreneur referred you. This podcast is brought to you by our affiliate sponsor, iEmployee. iEmployee is a virtual assistant service that hires almost anyone for any role in your company right out of the Philippines. Most roles range from $7 to $9 an hour for highly skilled and experienced VAs. And whether you need an executive assistant, social media manager, video editor, customer service, sales, you name it, they have it. We use iEmployee for our VA services, from editing and promoting the podcast to all the PR and promotion of our law firm. iEmployee acts as a virtual field supervisor on the back end with live video monitoring and reports on a daily basis with screenshots of your VA's workday, and along with complete HR and payroll duties. No more paying for overpriced and underqualified workers. There's a link in the show notes to get a 1-week free trial, and I encourage you to take advantage of it. Right.
Exactly.
So is Gamify really your tool that you use to consult with people, or is it a system that someone can buy standalone?
It's both. And that's the beauty of it. It's a
Okay.
self-led process. So I have 2 books here. So
Yeah.
this is the book here. This one is the Creative Player's Handbook. And this is a self-led reassessment of you and your business. And then it teaches you, walks you through it. What I don't like to tell people, because they, especially creatives, they back away from it, is you fill this out, you have an actual business plan and a 90-day plan of action to start earning real world money.
Nice.
That's what this book does.
Yeah, people need a business plan. They don't want them, but
absolutely.
they need them. Yeah.
And nobody wants to sit down and do that. But if I say, hey, we're going to go play a game, just fill out this information, and then they get done, I'm like, haha, surprise.
Yeah, you're tricking them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then this other book that I have here, which is the Game Master's Guide to Business, teaches you the art of storytelling. Because as primitive people, we sat around a fireplace and we didn't talk about ROI and ROAS. What we did is we told stories about the successes and the failures of people. We as species, as a human species, relate more to stories than we do about anything else.
Look at
I work with a woman. I work with a woman who was an actuary. She had the software that she had developed, and it was really good. She developed it while working for her mom's construction business.
Okay.
And she was about to go out and do this pitch deck to try to earn some seed money and all of this. And I said, cool, let me take a look at it. And she did. And she started just rattling off all the numbers. I'm like, that's great information, but it's boring as shit.
Right. It was all technical.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I said, why don't you come out strong with the story about your mom, how you helped out your mom, this small business, to be better, to do this better thing, and then get into the numbers. And I can guarantee you that the people who are listening to you, who are interested in giving you seed money, are going to remember your story about helping your mom more than any numbers that you throw out at them. And it did, and it worked.
Right.
And that's the benefit of it, is you want to make sure that storytelling really leads it. And whenever we go through this book, I ask 2 questions at the very beginning: is what are you passionate about, and what do you do different with that passion than anyone else? That's your business. Find that passion is what's going to lead you through it. And that's really where the story has to come from, because we don't start making random crap because we just want to one day. There's a reason we're doing it, and the reason, and we're trying to sell it to people because we want them to feel what we felt when we're making it. Right. And regardless of if it's widgets or paintings, it doesn't matter. No. There's a reason we get into it, reason we start this business. And if 95% of the people who come to me, the reason that they're not being successful is they've lost sight of that passion. Right. Something has distracted them from it. Right. And once we bring them back and we start having them tell the story again, that's when they start to profit. And one of the things that I've noticed, especially with social media, is that putting out your product and saying, buy me, or buy this thing, buy this thing. Nobody wants to buy. I don't want your shit. I don't want it. Exactly. So one of the rules in the book is quit selling your shit, sell yourself. Right. Sell your story. Right. Because people will stop and listen to a story, an interesting, engaging, funny, sad, whatever story. Right. And then they'll be enticed to help you. And how do they help? They buy your stuff. Yeah. Well, I think it goes with the old adage that we make emotional decisions backed up with logic. Right. So that client was a good example. Right. So she had all the logic, she had all the numbers, but if people aren't going to make decisions that way, they're going to make it because they relate to your story. They feel good about it. That's what drives people in business too. I think one of the problems with entrepreneurs, right, is that, especially because we're really, a lot of us are creatives. Maybe I'm not a theater major, but I'm looking to create something and to create systems, whatever. Yeah. And if we're not emotionally involved with it,
we tend to, you know, we tend to overlook things that we should be doing, right?
Mhm.
Which is what I like your approach, because you're taking the emotional side of it, the thing that drives all these people to do it, and putting into a system that backs it up with logic. Like the step that people miss is the business plan. Like they get so excited, right? They create, I don't know, some sort of product, right? And
Mhm.
they go out and they buy 10,000 units, and they're in their garage, and they don't have a marketing plan, and they don't know who should be the people involved in the business, right? They
Yeah,
haven't put finances together. And then 6 months later, they got a big box of stuff in their garage. I mean, that's it,
they do.
right?
And let me
Maybe
tell
there
you,
was a
that was my
market,
first
maybe there
business.
wasn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know, if they did your work up front,
Mhm.
maybe it wasn't the product that they should have been making. I mean, they don't know, right? So you get
Correct.
I think at some point you get too invested emotionally if you don't have a system that pulls you a little bit back to earth and says, hey, well, let's also look at this logically and make sure that it makes sense.
Absolutely. One of my clients that I worked with, she was she's a dental hygienist,
Mhm.
really, really smart lady. And she noticed that because they have to clean all the tools every single time, they use an ultrasonic cleanser and they throw all the tools in there and they
Yeah.
vibrate. That's what they do. Well, they throw the mirrors in there and the mirrors would get scratched up. And so they have to replace the mirrors constantly, and they're expensive because they're medical grade.
Yeah,
And
the
so she
little
actually
ones,
created,
right? The little
yeah.
in your
And
mouth.
so she
Yeah.
created these little silicone sleeves that go over it. They're called mirror guards. And I'm like, okay, cool. And they could be constantly cleaned because they're silicone. They don't absorb any kind of bacteria. Really great. So she went and spent $60,000 on the molds, went and produced all this, and went to trade shows and started handing them out left and right to get people interested in it. Well, what she didn't realize was that silicone never breaks down. Never. And so she was giving out all these freebies. Well, then nobody wants to buy them from you because you just gave them everything that they need.
Oh, you mean because they're not disposable.
No, no, they don't break down. And so I'm like, you literally just gave away to, and she's going to all these dental trade shows, giving them out samples left and right. And then I'm like, well, now you have nothing to sell.
Right.
And she's like, so the business. So literally, she was one of those people who had the boxes of stuff in the garage. And I said, sell your business, sell it.
Right.
Because at this point, you're underwater and you've saturated a market and you can't get out of it.
They're not going to buy it.
No.
So so how do you sell it?
So she found a company in China that also, because Chinese people have teeth. And so they're like, we would also like to produce it. Right. And so they came in and they gave her a low ball offer.
Right.
We negotiated up a little bit higher, but she did not even break even, but she got out because it was, it's that sunk cost fallacy. We're like,
Right.
we're in it and if I keep digging, I'll eventually get to China. It's like, no, you won't. Like, exactly. Get out. And
like,
so
if it's sunk, it's not coming back. So don't make worse decisions and compound your problems.
But it's that thing. You create a baby. It's your idea. It's the thing that you really poured yourself into, and you don't want to let it go. When I was in grad school, I had a professor, and when I was doing design work, and she'd tell us, and this is a horrible statement, but she goes, sometimes you got to kill your baby. It's a horrible thing to say out loud,
but it's true because people become so committed. They're like, "Oh, but Paul, I put in 2 years of my life into this, and I go, yeah, but if it's not going to work, you want to put another 2 years of your life into this? Yeah. Like, who?
Well, maybe that? There's nothing in the maybes, guys.
There's no maybe. It hasn't happened, and exactly. Even if is it worth the maybe? Short of making good decisions, like better decisions going forward, it's not. You tried for 2 years, it didn't work. So now, unless you have some epiphany where you look at it as the consultant and say, oh, listen, the one thing you're doing wrong is this.
Correct.
You just got to move on. Now, what did she do? What happened? A hygienist doesn't have her own business. So she works for dentist.
She worked for a dentist. Right? Yeah. So she was trying to
another route with her little business. Did she create something else? What happened?
No, she just continued being she got out. She got out, and she's just still a hygienist.
She's no longer a client of yours.
No, she's not. But it saved her from, because she was, the crossroads that she was at was she wanted to go global with it, but that would have been hundreds of thousands of dollars reinvested into a business that was not making profit.
Right.
Like, you're not in a position to go into debt to do this. I mean, even if she had course corrected and quit giving everything away, the product does not deteriorate.
Right. You'd have
Once
to change
you buy it
completely. Yeah.
Yeah. It's gotta have a shelf life.
Right.
Because you saturate a market and it never goes bad, then you're done.
Yeah.
And so that writing is there. So there are ways around that, but it wasn't within her wheelhouse to deal with it. And it was way too much money to invest in a company to be able to keep doing that type of thing.
I mean, now in dental offices, they cover everything in plastic, and I'm sure it gets thrown out and they just redo it. And
Oh, I have drawers full of old. My mother-in-law was a dental hygienist for years, and she's like, we can't do anything with these tools, but they're good sculpting tools. So I would collect them and I sell them
Perfect.
off as sculpting tools.
Nice.
Like because you just can't do that. Can't use those tools after a certain amount of time because they get scratched up and then bacteria grows in them. So
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Well, it's always a secondary market. So can you tell me some other stories about some other different industries that you've worked with that were, and what they were doing wrong and how they're able to course correct a little bit, or maybe they left the business too. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about this process is we talk about a lot about corporations and companies that I've worked for, but it also works for individuals as well. I have people who coming into retirement or getting close to retirement. They have that one great idea, or they want to change their direction in their business. They want to elevate themselves into a higher position before they get into retirement because the union's there, and obviously, if you retire at a higher position, you get better pay in retirement. And so I was working with this woman, and she was at that point. She was 62 years old. She's like, I want to get into management because she's working in the school systems right now. She's like, I need to get in there, but she didn't have any idea how to do that. I said, let's sit through and go through this book with you. And she's like, I don't understand how gamifying a school counselor is going to make any difference. I'm like, you'd be surprised. So let's sit through, because it's a lot of introspection. Like, what are your strengths and your weaknesses? From that, she got so much clarity on who she was that when a position did open up, she had all of the resources readily available to kill she killed it on her application as well as all of her interviews because she had spent the time thinking about all of this through this process. And then she went in there and she nailed it, and she got that promotion that she was looking for. So it worked on an individual basis with her as well. I've worked with people who are freshly out of school who are like, I've got this great training. I've got all of this great information. One of them was a creative. She was, they were an artist, and they're like, I have all this knowledge of how to do the job that I want to do. I have no idea what to do with it now. I'm like, that's a great position to be in because you're pretty much an open book, but you've got a lot of skills. And so I said, what do you want to do? I don't know. Well, we got to figure this out.
That's a common problem, right?
It is. And so, like, what are your skills? What's the thing that you're passionate about? And I'm like, what's your goal? And the goal is always the same: fame and fortune. But the thing is fame and fortune, that might be the end, but never try to chase that dragon because you'll never catch it.
That's at
You've got to have maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. It's the journey you're going to miss. Right.
Exactly. So what I say is, what's the passion? Follow the passion. Everybody wants to be an influencer. I'm like, well, an influencer is not just a person who jumps on camera and starts talking aimlessly. They're influencing you on something that they are passionate about. That's what makes them the expert. Said, you've got to understand what that is. And so I sat down with this person, and they ended up going through the system, and it took a while. It took multiple sessions of me going, it's like, no, dig deeper, figure this out. And eventually they got it, and it clicked, and then they went away. I have a session with them again next week, paid session, where they come back and they're like, I did everything that we did. I had a pop-up art store. It went great. I want to now, I'm trying to scale. What's the next thing I can do? I'm like, excellent. That's a great position to be in because you've got your clarity. And now we can go into actually creating a business for it, an actual foundational business on it. I don't know if you're familiar with Meow Wolf, which is there's multiple. Okay, so it's an art museum, but it's like an art museum you interact with. It's very cool. There's 3 of them in the country. They're always building more. And this client, that's their aspiration. Their aspiration is to design these interactive art exhibitions like Meow Wolf. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Obviously, you can't build a $3-5 million business right off the bat. You've got to start somewhere and build up to it.
Yeah.
But you have to have a vision. You have to understand what it is. Why are you different than anyone else? Anybody can come up with that idea. Meow Wolf exists already. So how are you doing it different from them that's going to make you stand out, that people are going to want to come to you instead of them? And so that clarity comes through this process. And then within that, then they can actually see the road ahead. For me in these books, the dragon is actually capitalism. It's the bank. It's the money. They have the hoard, And so for us, when we go to slay the dragon, it's actually, how do we get money? How do we be successful in this? And so that's where they're at right now. We've got the idea, we've got we've shown it in smaller versions that have been successful. So now how do we scale? Now we go towards the dragon's den. And let me tell you, you're going to wipe multiple times before you slay that dragon. That's just business.
Of course.
But you can't look at those failures as stopping points. The failure is the point in your business and in your life where you reflect, you learn,
right,
and then you attempt it again. You don't do the same thing over and over again. This isn't Don Quixote. We're not fighting windmills here.
Yeah.
You got to think it through.
Right. No. They're learning points. They're growth points. I mean, that happens with everybody. It's just more
Yeah.
fun. Can you say that? More fun? I don't know if that's right. Funner.
More fun. Absolutely.
It's
It's
funner.
funner. That's a better word. Funner. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So, I'm trying to think where we want to take this. So I'm a big pet peeve of when it comes to like business plans. Like I've been doing this 33 years as a lawyer. I can't tell you how many times I've had clients come to me and go, Mitch, I need your help. I got to shut down that business. And I'm like, well, didn't you open like 4 months ago or 6 months ago, whatever? Yeah, well, we did this wrong, or the pricing or the location or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. So I said, well, let's take a look at your business plan. And it's like crickets. They're like, well, I mean, I don't really have a business plan. I mean, and I'm like, well, do you have anything in writing? Do you have, have you worked out your marketing? How did you come up with your pricing strategy? Well, we hired some guy and he told us what we should charge. Well, do you know if you're making any money on what you're charging? No, not really. Our costs were higher. We didn't anticipate that kind of stuff. So to have a system, look, there are systems out there to create a business plan. None of it's fun.
No,
none of it's engaging, right? None.
Not at all.
Not. I mean, they work. But they're laborious. I mean, they're really difficult, right? They're
boring.
They're boring. You don't want to do it. And that's why people avoid all the financial side of it, which probably you think would be important, right? To know that you're only making $50,000 on a $1.2 million gross revenue would be a little bit of a problem, right? That would be ding, ding, flag.
They were unaware.
That's what I mean. They had no idea until you went through it. Yeah.
That's the crazy part. Ignorance is not an excuse at this point. Especially if you're running your business, that ignorance literally falls on your shoulders.
Of course.
And so you have to be able to, like when somebody's asking you a question, you should have those answers. And I don't care how you frame it. You can talk to me in gold pieces. I don't care. As long as you've got the answer,
right?
Cool. I know you've thought it through.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely what this does. And it does do it in a fun way because it's asking you all the questions that a simple business plan, it's not even simple, they're complex. Business plan is going to ask you all of these questions like, where's your income coming from? What is your pricing schedule? How are you going to, how are you going to ship everything? Who's going to be your marketer? All that stuff comes into play. And then what are your assets? And then what do you bring to the business? All of these questions need to be answered. Most people are like, I don't know.
It's not fun. So they don't want to deal with it. And it's just,
or it's depressing.
They don't want the answer, right? They don't want to know the answer.
Exactly. But if we frame it as a game, I'm like, what's your sword? What shield? What armor do you bring to this? What are your skill sets?
Right.
Okay, cool. And then your products become magical. Your products become magic items. It's not this generic, boring, day-to-day, dollars for dollars type of business. And the business plan reflects that.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're in business for yourself, right, or with other people, whatever, if it's not enjoyable, then why are you doing it?
Correct.
That's how I feel about it. Like, if you really hate what you're doing, then change it.
Please. But nobody wants to do that. Change is hard.
I know. People are very afraid of change.
They are. And I love it. I think it's one of my favorite things. I've changed my business like 8 times.
Every like 5 to 10 years,
Yeah, you have to.
Right.
Well, because you've changed, you've grown.
Right.
And that's actually one of the, like when it comes to pricing, that's one of the hardest things for creatives, especially to understand is like charging more because you've been doing it longer.
Yeah.
It's like your skill sets have gotten really good. I've got this great analogy that I use. I'm like, let's say you start off and you're charging $15 an hour for labor and it takes you 4 hours to do something. So it's $60 to do this thing. Well, then 2 years later, you're doing the exact same thing, but you cut the time in half because you're a lot better at the job.
Why are you still right? You shouldn't get $30 now.
Exactly. Why is old shitty you getting paid more than new better you?
Right.
No, you should be doubling your price so that you're at least making the same amount.
At least.
You should be making more, at least. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so when we start talking about that, and I do it I have a mathematical thing and I've got a scale that they can look at. And they're like, when you start seeing like where you fall on a scale of 1 to 10, like when you're hitting that 10 number and you're like, well, my hourly rate is $750. I'm like, it is, because you can do what you at level 5 was charging $15 an hour for, but you're doing it in such a fraction of time.
Doesn't mean the client pays $750. It means it took you 15 minutes instead of an hour.
Exactly that. That's why the Tonight Show hires me. It's like, can you make this in an hour? Yes, I can make it in an hour. You're going to pay me for that hour, though.
Of course.
Because it used to take me hours or days to do it.
It would take them more time.
Exactly. And so
it wouldn't look as good. Right.
Right. So, but when somebody reflects on that and they're like, oh, my hourly is this high, no one's going to pay that. It's like, that's not true. It's not true.
You got to get more comfortable with what I say your largest check is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
be afraid to ask for it.
Notorious for this is professionals. Attorneys, accountants. I know colleagues that have been they're charging the same hourly rate that they were charging like 10 years ago.
Oh my God.
I mean, first of all, they're punishing their family, right? Because their cost of living is higher to. And then if you
Absolutely.
net out the expenses that they have and you tell them, listen, I charge like $5.50 an hour, let's say, and they're charging $3.50 an hour, and you net out their expenses and they're literally making $175 an hour. They go, I wouldn't work for that. I go, neither would I.
Right. Right.
But they've been doing
And
it so long they don't realize, and they just learn to struggle. It's crazy.
and with creatives, they feel like if I raise my pricing, then no one's going to buy.
No.
My experience in 20 years of doing this is that every time I raise my prices, I get better clients and I sell more.
Yep. Better clients. Sell more. I've had people literally raise their price because I guess it's not formal coaching, but I help a lot of young attorneys, whatever. They raise their price and clients are like, I've been expecting you to do that for like 3 years, because it increases the perception of the value that you
Absolutely.
bring to the table, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, like if I'm going out and I'm looking for a lawyer, and because I've got a big case coming up, and I've got a guy who's going to charge me $50 an hour, I got a guy who's going to charge me $1,000 an hour.
Yeah, you're going to take the $1,000 one
because that guy's got to be much better. He's going to get me what I want. That $50, I'm like, I'm like, and I understand there are people who cannot afford the $1,000 an hour person.
But those are the ones maybe you shouldn't be doing business with. You can't help everybody.
There's that, and let me tell you, if you want something bad enough, you'll find that $1,000 an hour.
Of course. Of course. The Tonight Show wants you to, they expect you not to charge them a premium when they ask you for 24 hours to do. That would be ridiculous. Then they would eventually say, you know what, Paul's really not good at what he does, right? Because why does he charge so little? Don't tell
they've actually told me that. I've underbid on some jobs, and they're like, you're not charging enough.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like,
they
thanks.
see the work you do.
It.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's one. I don't know if that's part of the process about getting people comfortable with what they're charging, right? It is. Yeah. Yep. And I think you really need to increase your price a little bit every year. So you're never at the point where you have to, I mean, I guess there are exceptions like the pandemic and tariffs and things like that. But for the most part, if you raise your price $20 to $50 an hour or whatever each year, first of all, nobody's going to notice. And then you never have a huge increase that you are embarrassed about. You're comfortable with it and you're keeping up and you feel better. And you're right. You do get better quality clients. Like, there's no question about it. You just unfortunately have to price yourself out of the markets that you don't want to be in. Like, don't do favors for people because they will attract the other people who need the favors.
What I train people to do when we're doing this pricing is if there are clients that insist upon working for you, but they're not going to be good clients, you have to tack on, we call it the asshole tax.
Nice.
But you tack on and you or the blow off fee. Like, we all bid these jobs. Like, I don't have time for this. I'm going to give out this stupid number. And if they're
more willing for me than them. Right.
Yeah. And if they're willing to pay the stupid amount of money, then I will lower myself to do the job. Right. But you've got to be comfortable enough with that. You can't help everyone. It's just not there. And not everyone's. And let me tell you, when people pay less for you, they're bad clients. I've never had a scope creeper from somebody who pays the right amount.
Right.
The scope creepers always come from people who pay little or want to haggle with your prices or want to negotiate. And then they come in and start adding more and more and more to it. And eventually you're working for free and they're getting everything that they want. Oh, worst kind of clients to have. Yep. So no, hit them with and it sounds like such a jerk move. Well, I'm going to overcharge for everything. It's like, you're charging your worth, but you got to understand what your worth is.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of introspection in these books that's what that does. It tells you, like, this is what your specialty is. This is why you're valuable, why you're magical.
Right.
And I like that terminology because we live in a very mundane world and we're surrounded by things that are very mundane. Go to Amazon, Walmart, you can buy everything for $1. So why would people want to pay $500 for something from me? Because what I make is magical. You cannot reproduce what I make.
Right.
And same thing with other creatives. That thing you invented, regardless of being you're a creative entrepreneur, you design the mirror guard or you're a widget that is brand new to the market. That's magic, kids.
Yeah, of course.
It's got value. And it's way more than $1.99.
Right. You got to believe in it, right? You got to have comfort with it. And I think that gets portrayed. Like, if you don't have belief in it, people see that and they feel it. And if you do, they feel it the other way. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that confidence is crazy. I use an analogy where you've seen people walking down the street and somebody's dressed crazy, like absolutely crazy. You're like, I would never in a million years dress like that. But they're walking around like, this is my day to day. They've got that confidence. Yeah. You notice them. And let me tell you, they know you notice them. And that just gives them more confidence. If you have that confidence in your business and the things that you're selling, to walk into a room and be like, I own myself and I know it. It attracts people. we don't understand the psychology or how it works, but it does. If you have that ownership of who you are and what you do, when you walk into a room, people notice, heads turn, and people want to come to you. You're magnetic. And that is a magical power that we can't quantify. We can't teach it. You just have to understand who you are. And the only way we can teach it is to make sure you understand who you are and what your value is.
Take you through a process. I think if you closed your eyes and you imagined that you were doing all the right things, right? You had confidence in what you do. You believed in your service. You were emotionally attached to it. You found a system like you have to create a good business plan, a working document where you can, so you don't have to remember everything in your head, which is impossible.
Right.
And everything's, all the cylinders firing in the right direction. You're going, right? Think about, would that be what your quality of life would be like? Would the business be successful? And right, it's a stupid question because the answer is, of course, yes. So the rhetorical question is, why don't we do it? And to a large extent, your system is answering that question, right? Because you're saying we don't do it because we are emotional beings. And if we don't enjoy what we're doing, we're not engaged, just like we want to engage people. That's why look, I know people that have been trying to raise money for years for companies that have great technology or have great products and they're sticking with it and whatever, good, bad, or indifferent, right? But it's, you know what I mean? It's not an engaging, they think it's engaging, oh, this is great, but nobody else really feels it. And if
that's
they
the
had
thing.
a better story,
You just said it. It's right there. They don't feel it.
They don't feel
feeling.
It.
And
right.
It's really what it comes back to story. It's about feeling. You've got to touch some, like, I don't care how good your technology is. And we can talk about AI all day here about how, pivotal it is in our society at this moment. But
Right.
I've seen so much shitty AI out there because it's a tool. What you've created, a widget, whatever the answer, it's a tool to help humans do something or achieve something more.
Right.
If you are not helping the human part of that, if you're just trying to sell the tool, again, it comes back to buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing. Nobody cares.
Right. And you know
Tell
what
the
I think,
story.
Paul? I think that if people are investing in your business or they're buying your product or whatever it is, they're taking a chance. And they need to take a chance on you, like you, right? So they need to believe in you to say, I'm willing to take that chance. Especially if they're investing in your business, but right. Yeah. They're not investing in your product because it's a great product. No. They're investing in your ability to do it and be committed to it and execute all these things. If they don't think you could do that, it doesn't matter if you have the greatest product in the world. They'll offer you, fine, I'll give you $1 million, give me the product and I'll take it and run with it, And
it happens all the time on shows like Shark Tank, where you're like, I can't see you don't have the capacity to take this to the
guy. Right.
Exactly. So we'll buy it from you and we'll make all the money and we'll buy you out.
Right.
And that's the truth. If you're not there behind it, I mean, and that's the thing about building your team or finding your group is that you may be the brilliant, like Steve Jobs is a great example of this. He hated talking to people, hated it. Right. Innovative guy, hated talking to people, and they'd force him to do it, but he was always on the stage. Like, you read his book. You talk about him walking through the office. People shied away from him because he was just hated people.
Right.
But that's okay. He found people around him. He surrounded himself with people who filled that gap for him.
Right.
And when he had to go out there and be the presentation, he could. But then when it came down to the nitty-gritty dealing with all that, he's like, no, I got people for that. You go deal with that. And if you are that innovative person, find your group. Find your group to talk to find the extroverts for your company. Find the people who are interested in marketing. Find the people, and those are the people you need to surround yourself with. Right. The biggest mistake that I found a lot of creatives do is they like to surround themselves with people who are like-minded.
Yeah, they're just the same as them. Like, what do you need more of those for?
Exactly. You already got you. Right. That's the best. In gaming, we say it's like having 5 warriors. You're going to wipe. You need a healer. You need a damage DPS. You need all these other people to support you. You can't always be the guy at the front. And when they understand, and you don't even have to be like friends with these people. You have to be friendly. You got to work with them, but you're not going to go get a beer with them. That's what friends are for.
Right.
Surround yourself with friends when you're not in business, but surround yourself with people who are going to help your business round it out and be better. Right. That's going to be your better solution.
Yeah. No, I love it. I mean, look, that's why Dungeons and Dragons is a group game.
Absolutely.
You don't do it alone. You can't do it alone.
And it'd be really boring if you did. Just be you and the game master.
Right, and that's true. And you could be the game master. You're reading the book yourself, rolling dice, pretending you're different characters. Like, that's ridiculous, right? You might as well play solitaire.
When you say it out loud, it sounds absolutely ridiculous. Yet the amount of solopreneurs that I know who will fight me tooth and nail about that, and you're like, you just said it, and we're both laughing about it. We're like, this sounds ridiculous. And they're like, no, this is how I got to do it. And it's like,
I was talking to a guy the other day, and he's like, I really know I should be hiring some people to take this stuff off my plate, but it's just easier for me to do it myself I go, no, you don't even realize, like, you're going to hire people to do the things that you shouldn't be doing. And it first of all, it'll increase your profits, probably tenfold. It'll free you up to do the things you need to do. You don't realize how cluttered your mind is trying to do things that you shouldn't be doing. You and I both know if you're in the startup phase, some of them stuff you got to do. You got to write, you're up all night coding, whatever you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
But if you want to be, I don't know any entrepreneurs I've ever met who are successful, who are doing everything themselves.
No.
Even the ones that are now consulting, right, are now consulting because they're helping other entrepreneurs. They're not doing it themselves. They have an assistant, they have marketing people, they have whatever, virtual VAs or whatever, to keep their system going while they can concentrate on the one thing that they're doing, which is giving advice and helping people do your game or whatever.
Had a call with my VA just this morning.
Yeah, I got.
That's what you have to do.
In, the Philippines. She's in the middle of the night. I'm during the day. So yeah, and you know what? When I did that, my life changed.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It was an investment. It wasn't a cost.
No, and even if that person, because let me tell you, I mean, even myself, when I first started out, I was like, no one can do it the way that I do it, and that's 100% true. But if they did 80% the way that you do it, that's still a whole burden off of you.
Yeah. And you know what? My VA, there's some things that I do better, but it's not worth my time. And there's some things she does better than me.
Absolutely. Because everybody has their own
podcast. Yeah. We wouldn't be doing video if I don't know video. What are you kidding me? You used to throw it up as raw video with a YouTube or Canva thumbnail. And then my guy's like, listen, I think we really should turn this around and do more video. I'm like, well, but I don't have time to. Oh, no, I'll talk to her and we'll do it. I'm like,
there you go.
Knock yourself out. I did some B-roll and we're off and running. So Paul, tell me how, from the Gamify side of things, people can, interact with you, learn about what you're doing, maybe work with you, find out about the do-it-yourself type of piece, because I definitely want to stay in touch. I'm a big proponent of people doing the right things to improve their chances of success and reduce the failure level. And I think your system is fantastic because it just looks at life and says, listen, let's not kid ourselves. This is what people are like, Yeah. I don't care if they're creatives or not creatives. Nobody does the right thing constantly. So how can people find out about the system and learn about you? They got to go to your website, Amazon. Where are they going?
Yeah, go to gamifybusiness.com.
Okay.
I have it on Amazon, but I don't make any money there. So I'm going to be honest with you. Go to my website and I get all the money.
Put a link in the show notes only to your website. Okay.
Yeah, gamifybusiness.com.
They're not saving any money going to Amazon, are they?
No, I'm just making Jeff Bezos richer. So,
right. Exactly. All right. So everybody listening, support Paul. Go to his website. Don't buy it through Amazon. Okay.
No. But if you go to gamifybusiness.com/podcast, you can actually get the first 2 chapters for free to check out the system. Nice. So you understand what you're getting into, and then you can go and buy it. And it is self-led, or you can hire me. And I'm on social media at Paul Pape Designs, because that's the business I have for 20 years. So you can find me there as well as Gamify Business.
You're on LinkedIn too?
Yep. It's Paul Eric Pape. Yeah, full name, because there's so many Paul Papes out there. We'll put links
in the show notes, and I can't thank you enough. This is a really cool interview because it really kind of brought everything kind of full circle that I've been talking about for 7 years, and put it into a format that people can really understand, and I think could be excited about. That's
the goal.
One of my it's just killing me, but this made me feel a lot better. So I can't thank you enough, and continue doing all the good work, and let's stay in touch and keep helping people.
Will do. Thanks, Mitch. I appreciate it.
All right. Where is there we go. In addition to being a podcast host, I'm also a small business attorney, mostly providing legal services in New York and New Jersey. With over 3 decades of experience, we can handle most transactional issues. So if you're watching the show and you encounter some sort of legal issue, reach out to us and visit our website, beinhakerlaw.com. Thanks for tuning into the show and for continuing to support us.